place for you to come and worship every Sunday. It's a tent, right? We prepare a place for you to come and worship the Lord. That's what David did. He prepared a place for the ark of God to come. Saying, no one may carry the ark of God but the Levites, for the Lord has chosen them to carry the ark of God and to minister before him. So when David heard about Obed-Edom being blessed, he thought, why should they be blessed over there and Israel not be blessed? So David says, we are going to bring the presence of the Lord back to Jerusalem. And David was saying, we have to bring the presence of God back home. I know as pastors, we see other cities blessed. We were in San Jose, like I said, they're blessed over there. There's rejoicing, they're growing. Fremont is growing, Oakland is growing. Why can't we have that? Why can't we be blessed? Why can't our households be blessed? If we're going to be, David and his company worship passionately. And if we are going to be passionate worshipers, we cannot worship from a distance. We must worship in intimacy. Our singing isn't just reciting words. Every word that you sing means something. It's coming directly from your heart. When I sing these worship songs, I believe every word that I'm singing. I believe it. I claim those words over my life, over my family. So if you're just singing words and not moved in the spirit, you have to check your heart. You have to check the condition of your heart. Like I said, hasn't God done something for you? Hasn't He? Hasn't He delivered some of you from an addiction? I know He restored my marriage. My marriage was broken. We were on the way to divorce. I was not a good wife. I was not. I was not a faithful wife. And that right there is all the reason for us to be separated, divorced. That's all the reason. But God had a different plan. God had a different plan for us. His plan was for us to come here. And we are living in the call of God right now. And you have to recognize who God is in your life, what He's done for you. We might experience lots of hardship and trials. That's the suffering, right? Didn't Christ suffer? That's the suffering, but there's blessings. There's blessings that come when you go through that suffering. God turns it all around. He turns it all around. So when our worship is pleasing to God, we are blessed. It returns to us. We will see the blessings come to your households. This church will grow, and we will experience success when we acknowledge the need for God's presence. It's up to us to bring the presence of God back home, here in Redwood City, to the peninsula. It's up to us. It's not just the team's job to bring the presence. It's all of us. All of us together create an atmosphere. There was an atmosphere set in this place this morning. There was an atmosphere where God was moving. People were excited this morning because we created an atmosphere. We want this church to grow, then you need to come. You need to participate. You need to get active in worshiping. And in verse 13 it says, and when those who were carrying the ark of the Lord by its poles had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed an ox and a fatling. A fatling is a fat sheep. That's what a fatling is. It's a fat sheep. Every 6 paces there was blood shed. There was a price to pay. From the beginning of the journey to the end, David sacrificed. Without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. Their sins were temporarily covered with the blood of animals. That's what they would do. The priest would go, he would offer blood on the mercy seat, and it would be an atonement for the sins of the people. But we don't have to do that anymore, because Jesus went to the cross for us. He paid the price for us. He sacrificed for us so that we wouldn't need to have someone go into the presence of God for us for forgiveness of our sins. we're able to go directly to him. You see, it all points to the ultimate sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Only through the blood can we be forgiven, that we are able to approach a holy God. The 6 steps was a reminder to keep the Sabbath holy. And the sacrifice is you and I. Sacrifice, getting up a little earlier. Sacrifice, maybe working one less Sunday a month. Sacrifice. God blessed you with that job. Shouldn't you acknowledge him in his presence? We are not to keep working and working and working. We are to rest, to worship God, to set it apart, to keep the Sabbath holy. God didn't rest because he was tired. You think God was tired? He created the heavens, the earth, the moon, the sun. He created everything, right? And on the 7th day, he rested. He didn't rest because he was tired. He did it so he could set an example for us to follow. In Hebrews 10:19, it says, "And so, dear brothers and sisters, we can boldly enter the heaven's most holy place because of the blood of Jesus." There must be a greater appreciation for the blood that Jesus shed on Calvary. There needs to be an awareness of the holiness of God, an awareness of our sinfulness, an awareness of the magnitude of the cross. We see the cross small at times because we don't understand the holiness of God. We see, okay, yeah, Jesus died on the cross. Yeah, he died for my sins. Do you know the price that was paid? Have you read in the Gospels that he was unrecognizable? His face was transfigured. If you've ever been in a fight and you get punched, don't you get a black eye? Boxers, right? You see boxers' heads swell up. I see MMA fighters, their heads come this big. I've seen a lot of stuff, right? So can you imagine what Jesus endured? The lashes that he took for us. We can't see the cross as small. We have to see the price that was paid for you and I. And in verse 16 through 22, it says, this was Michal's contempt for David. Michal was his wife, Saul's daughter. But as the ark of the Lord entered the city of David, Michal, the daughter of Saul, looked down from her window. And when she saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, she was filled with contempt for him. They brought the ark of the Lord and set it in its place inside the special tent David had prepared for it. And David sacrificed burnt offerings and peace offerings to the Lord. And when he had finished his sacrifices, David blessed the people in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies. Then he gave to every Israelite, man and woman in the crowd, a loaf of bread. He gave them a cake of dates and a cake of raisins. Then all the people returned to their homes. So when David returned home to bless his own family, Michal, daughter of Saul, came out to meet him. She said in disgust, "How distinguished the king of Israel looked today, shamelessly exposing himself to the servant girls like any vulgar person might do." Can you imagine that attitude? And David retorted to Michal, "I was dancing before the Lord who chose me above your father and all his family. He appointed me as the leader of Israel, the people of the Lord. So I celebrate before the Lord. Yes, and I am willing to look even more foolish than this, even to be humiliated in my own eyes. But those servant girls you mentioned will indeed think I am distinguished." Michal did not like what she saw. She didn't. She was angry. She was outspoken. I used to be like Michal. I did. I was. Like I said, I was not a good wife. The Lord has delivered me. But she didn't like what she saw. She saw him coming. You know what I used to do when my husband would take off and I was looking for him? I'd get my binoculars out, looking all down the block for him. I knew he was somewhere around. That's what I would do. I'd be waiting. We had a 2-story. I'd be waiting upstairs, looking down the street for him, see when he was going to come home, because I was going to meet him outside. I was going to meet him. I was always ready. I was always ready to go toe to toe with him. All the time. Ready. My mother-in-law knows. My sister-in-law knows. That's why she's laughing right now. But she saw him coming. She must have heard the sound of the music coming from far away. I can see it in my imagination. Her looking down from her window, watching him dancing and singing in the streets, burning with anger. So what does she do? She goes running down her stairs, right? That's what I used to do. Run down the stairs. I'm going to run down the stairs, right? And she goes out to meet him before he could even walk through the door. And instead of greeting him with a kiss or a hello, since he's been gone a long time, she starts yelling at him, right? And all David wanted to do was bless his household. But in his wife's eyes, she saw him disrobed in the sight of slave girls and thought his dance was vulgar. She accused his display of worship as unworthy of the dignity of a king. You see, titles and promotions don't matter when you're in the presence of God. All that stays out. None of that matters. Title of pastor, title of leader, none of that matters. It's just us and God, us and God. You see, David's motives were sincere, celebrating before the Lord unashamed. And when we worship enthusiastically, not everyone will approve. You might be sitting next to someone and you don't want to worship because you're afraid what they might think of you. Or you're afraid like, hey, why did you act like that? Why are you doing that? Why are, being questioned about the way you're worshiping. But when we worship before an audience of one, nothing or no one else matters. We worship before an audience of one. And that one is God. Us and God. Doesn't matter what your neighbor's doing. Doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. It becomes all about Him. In verse 23, it says, so Michal, the daughter of Saul, remained childless throughout her entire life. Michal's barrenness was definitely related to her criticism of David's worship of the Lord. She did not just criticize David, but she criticized the worship of the Lord. It's only through intimacy that the things of God are birthed. If you have dreams for your life, you have visions for your life, those things are only going to be birthed when you have intimacy with the Lord. When He becomes your everything. Her words went against the worship the Lord rightly deserved. David was vindicated by God with blessings, and Michal experienced God's displeasure with her. God was not happy with her and the way she behaved, the way she conducted herself, the way she criticized. You see, our church is missing the presence of God. Jesus needs to be brought to the center of our worship this morning. We need a hunger and a passion for God. We do. We need a hunger for Him. Not coming up with so many excuses of why we can't come. Why can't we have the same people here every week? Why is it so hard to come and worship God every week? We have to fall in love with Him. We have to have passion for Him. Jesus went to the cross. He paid the ultimate price so we could have the privilege of coming to Him directly. You see, Michal didn't understand because she was not participating in worshiping. You're not able to worship from a distance. You're not. You can't look at everybody else worshiping and stand in the background and not participate. She needed to become active in the intimacy of worshiping the Lord. Like I was sharing, is that we've been through some stuff, right? This last year, we've been through some stuff. I've been through some stuff. I've been through some heavy, heavy trials. Heavy trials where I thought, like, I don't want to do this. I don't know if I can do this anymore. And if you have children, you are the legacy for your children to come and serve the Lord. Do you want your kids experiencing what you've gone through? Do you want your kids experiencing hardship? Do you want them addicted? Do you want them meeting up with the wrong person? Then we have to set the examples for our children. I'm paying a price right now with my son. I'm paying a price because I failed as a mom to instill within him at a young age what it was to serve the Lord. Instead, I would take him at 6 years old and push him in bushes and hide him because I thought someone was after us. That's what I did. I'm paying a price right now. But I'm trusting God that God is going to come through. I'm trusting God that He's going to bring him back home. Amen. We experience, everyone here has their own struggle. Everyone here has their own hardships, their losses. But are you willing to still worship through it? Are you willing to still acknowledge that God is the one true God and He's in control? Yes. He's in control. You have to trust that. At some point in your life, you're going to have to make a decision what you want to do. We're living in the end times. I don't know if you see that. Doesn't the Bible say that in the last days there'll be wars and rumors of wars and there'll be plagues and there'll be this and that? Right? But the Bible also says that in the last days He will pour out His Spirit upon all men. He is able to do that. But all you have to do is say yes. Here I am, God. Here I am. You think you have to have it all together to come worship Him? No, you don't. When I came back to the Lord, it was hard for me at first. It was hard for me to let go of the addiction. There's a lifestyle in that addiction. The hustle, the this, the that, right? It was hard for me to let go of that. But I came to a place where I became desperate. And I said, you know what, God, if you're real, God, then heal my mind. Because I can't watch TV, God, because I see people staring right back at me. It's not the actors. I couldn't function right. I didn't know what reality was. Reality was not real to me. It was just, I didn't have my kids. I didn't have anything. I came with nothing. You hear pastors say that we came with nothing. We had everything. We had house, cars, kids, dogs, cats. I came with nothing. I came rolling my cart of clothes. That's what I came with to the Lord. That's all I had. I didn't have nothing. But I said, you know what, God, if you're real, God, then heal my heart, because my heart is broken. My heart's broken. My marriage is all messed up. I don't have permission to see my kids. I have to wait for someone to set up a visit for me, to hug them, to kiss them, to play games with them. That's real stuff right there. And you might think that, well, I'll never experience that. I never thought I would experience that. I was never a drug addict. I always looked at my husband like, you're the drug addict. you're the one with the problems. I always thought myself better. But what did God do? He allowed me to go through all that stuff to humble me, to bring me to a place of desperation and saying, okay, God, I surrender to you. I give it all to you, God. I give up. I give up, I give up, I give up. Because I keep trying to do it my way. My way isn't working. And I remember going to that altar. They said, come to the altars, come to the altars. And I said, okay, God, here I go. I'm going. But you need to fix me. If you're the God that everybody says that you are, you need to fix me because I messed up. I messed up. And this morning, you might feel like you're messed up. You might feel far. And like I said, this was a serious message. It wasn't nowhere near what I wanted to speak on. And we're not even able to stream online. I think God is saying no more online for this church. This church needs to come and gather and come into my presence. Yes. Because every week we cannot stream online. Even today, it even got worse today. Like it was like from the very beginning. It was like rejected, stream is rejected. But God is requiring of us this morning to worship, to put Him in His proper place in your life, in your home. He has to be everything. He has to be the center of your life. And everything else comes after that. He'll put it all into place the way He sees fit. Sometimes you think that you want to do it your way because it's going to be better this way. God has His best in mind for you. I would always tell Melissa, she wanted a house, right? I want a home, I want a place of my own, And I remember praying for her. And the Lord told me that He has her in the waiting. Because He's preparing what He has for her. She's got a beautiful place. She's got a beautiful place. But that's the kind of God we serve. He gives us His very best. Did I think my husband was the very best for me? No, I didn't. I didn't think he was the very best for me, right? But I look back now and I'm like, he was. He was exactly what I needed. Because God knew what I was going to go through. And He knew who was going to stand behind me no matter what I did. No matter what I did. Many of you would have ran out. I'm being really serious. Many men would have ran out. I said, forget that. Forget that woman. She doesn't deserve me, right? He didn't do that. He stuck by me. He encouraged me. The person I am today is because He discipled me. I am His disciple. Everything that I know, the way I can come up here and minister is because He taught me. He taught me to always put God first. He taught me to trust God. Because I wasn't one to trust God. I was like, I need everything evident and tangible that I could feel it and touch it in front of me. But I'm blessed. I'm very, very blessed. And He'll tell me, you know you're lucky to have me. He'll tell me that, you know you're lucky to have me. I am. I am a very lucky woman. You know, that's God's grace. See how God can restore relationships? See how God can put all things back together? We could not be in the same room together at all. We'd be boxing. I'd be throwing the pans and the pots and the mashed potatoes and everything else. I was just sharing with Isaac this morning that I would throw that little old Nokia phone. Remember those first? Those were durable, right? Because I'd get that phone and throw it and still be alive, right? I wanted that thing to die. I wanted that thing to die. But this morning, go ahead and come up. What we're going to do is, I want you to experience the presence of the Lord this morning. I want you to have that experience this morning. I want you to experience His goodness with rejoicing, with praising Him this morning. He's here this morning. And I want to encourage you to not give up. To not give up. Because good things are coming, right? It's through the sacrifices. We have to endure through the hardships to experience the blessings. We do. If you give up, you won't inherit the blessing. It's about persevering. Everything you go through is to change you. It's to change you. God's trying to change something inside of you through that trial. He's trying to pull something out of you through that trial. He's saying it's time to let this go now. It doesn't fit in your life anymore because you need to make more room for me. So everybody stand this morning. And I didn't speak long because I wanted us to take some time, not in a hurry, but I really wanted us to take some time, just you and the Lord. Don't worry about who's next to you. Don't worry about your husband. Don't worry about your wife. Don't worry about anyone. This is between you and God. You are in an audience of one. When you recognize that you are just you and Him, that's when you're going to begin to feel Him come in. So right now, just go ahead and bow your heads, lift your hands, and worship. Worship this morning. Don't be ashamed. Stand unashamed of who He is this morning. Some of you need to be broken. You haven't allowed yourself to break in the presence because you're afraid of what others might think. Last night, Nikki Cruz was sharing with us that when he came to the Lord, that he was broken, crying like a baby. But that's what it has to happen at times for us. We need to be broken in the presence of the Lord for Him to bring healing. Amen? Go ahead.
When the music fades and all is stripped away, and I simply come, longing just to bring something that's a word.